Hey everyone, myself Rohan, and today we are going to do the second part of our GraphQL series, which we were previously doing. And without wasting any time, let's jump right into it. So here I have my terminal and I'll initialize my code. Previously, we were working on the server side. I have shown you previously. If you haven't watched my previous video in which I worked on the server side, I would definitely recommend you to watch the video which I covered. I explained in detail the type definitions and the resolvers, how we are going to use it and implement it, and the backend part. Today we are going to continue or work on the front end side of our code. So I'll explain you what we're going to do. Let's first start our server side. So as we can see, it is completely running, and in the front end we have Vite React, and in this application I have installed two packages, which are these Apollo server. No, this is for the backend. I'm sorry. Let me close the backend. Yeah, in the front end we have added two files, which two packages, which is Apollo client and GraphQL. What you can do is simply npm install GraphQL and @apollo/client, and your app will contain these two packages. Just press enter and you'll be good to go. Since I've already installed it, I don't have to. And second part of what we are going to do is we'll add some instance at the top level of our component of our application, so that each and every component can use the main functionalities of the GraphQL. So I'll show you what we can do. We have to import the client side, import Apollo client and in-memory cache, and the provider like Apollo provider. Yeah, these things will be used. This class, let's like initialize this class const client as new Apollo client, and here we are going to pass two things. First will be URI, and URI will contain the like the address where our backend code is running. If your code is deployed into some network or some Heroku platform or some EC2 instance, you can directly add the address of that EC2 instance or the Heroku provider where you have deployed your backend. Here I have my backend running on port 4000 locally. So I'll add local host, sorry, colon slash, I'll do http colon slash slash localhost 4000. Next will be cache, and cache will be provided as in-memory cache. We'll create an instance of new in-memory cache. And now we are going to wrap up our app component with the Apollo provider. And it is done. Let's pass the client as the client which we created. Now our application has the client and the Apollo provider as wrapped up, so we can use the functionalities provided by Apollo to use GraphQL. Let's see what we're going to do. In the front end, previously what we were doing was through running our code in the backend and testing it on local network provided by Apollo, we were able to check how it is running. For example, if I go to localhost 4000, will be greeted by this UI provided by Apollo only. you can see it's running on localhost, and I haven't created it. It is provided by the Apollo server, since we were running our code on localhost 4000 in the backend, and this is created given by Apollo only. And if we run it, we'll get all the details provided by us. The working of it I've explained completely in my previous video. You can check it out, the part 1 series of the GraphQL. And today we are going to do the front end of it. So let's understand how we are going to get those values in the front end, how we can display it through the front end. We are going to use two hooks provided by Apollo client, which will be use query and use mutation. How we are going to use it, let's see. First, we are going to use query so as to fetch and display the read-only data, not the mutation-based data. Let's use query first. Use query, and it will give us some data, right? And what we have to pass here is exactly what we were using in the code of provided by Apollo server. This one. How we are going to pass it, I'll show you. First, let's create a const variable, get all users, because we are using this only. Add a backtick, and we explained a query. So this, let's change the name of it, get all users, and we'll get the details of the user like this. If you want to format this, you can use one more thing like GQL provided by Apollo client, so that it looks better. Now let's pass this get all users here. If now we console log data in the console log, let's check if it is working or not. This is the client. Now we have localhost 5173, sorry, 5173. Oh, I think I haven't started the client. Npm run dev. Yeah, let's run again and check the console. Yep, we are getting the values as provided. We provided name, ID, and age, so we are getting all those values. And if we remove the details from it, for example, if we don't want age and we then call it, what we are going to get is the values containing only ID and name. I hope I'm clear up until now. Let's use the second functionality, which was if I check into the server, the second functionality was get user by ID. Let's use this one. Since it is also a read-only data, we'll use query only. Use query, and we'll pass something similar to this one. We'll create it right now, and we'll get some data from it. Data. Let's change the name for both of this since they are same. We'll get all users, and that's what we are console logging. And here, user by ID. Let's create the thing which we wanna pass it in the use query now. Const get user by ID, right? And similarly, we will use GQL and backticks. Now the query which we want to pass, get user by ID. That's the function. Let's use it. And since we are using the GQL, we have to pass the ID. So how we're gonna pass the ID? We will pass it. It's a bit different. I'll show you. So we have to first define the ID as like this, and the type will be something which I previously discussed. It will be defined as this. Now inside this, we'll be having um, specific function basically. Just a minute. This was the query provided by the that we called out to the Apollo client, right? Now we have to call the function get user get element by id, no, get user by id, this function. Now in this function there's predefined that we have to get the id, and what will be that id? That id will be the id which we passed, this one. It is a bit confusing, but this is the structure of it. So this was the method of passing the argument into the uh, GraphQL, and by passing the id we have to get the name, age, and is married status, right? Now how we are going to call this, let's look into it. For example, here only we have to pass actually get user by id. We pass this, but we have to pass an argument also, so we'll pass it here like this, as an object which has a variable, sorry, variables, and in the variable we have to pass the id which will be used here. Now suppose we pass id of 3. Let's see if we can get the data. Specific user, right? User by id. Let's see if we call out localhost 5173 and check whether we have it or not. Yep, we have it. We have a user which we passed, and we have the values is married, name, and everything. If you go to the server and check what was the user with the third id, was it was named Pandey, and id was like age was 12, and is married was false. Same as what you're getting here. So this is also successful. So now our use query is working perfectly. Let's use the use mutation hook in order to mutate the values present in the backend or the server. Now we are going to use mutation. Mm, let's use it here only. Const something, right, equals use mutation. Similar to that, we have to pass something here which will define it like this. So let's define it. Since we are using we are going to create a user, right? Create user, let's name it that only. Const in capital create user equals similar GQL and backtick, sorry, backtick, and now we have to pass the mutation. Instead of previously we were passing query, now we have to pass mutation. Now what will be the mutation? Create user, and in this we have to pass a name value. This is the way basically how we pass the value. That's how it is defined. So the name value will be of type string, right, and it is important. Similarly, age value will be also of type not string but int, and it will be important, and is married is also of type not also but unique type of boolean, and that's important. In this function we'll be having the similar, this method is similar to the previous one where we were passing the values. First we have to define the query which we have to pass to the Apollo client, then we define the function. Similarly here, first we define the mutation which we pass to Apollo client. Now we define the function. What's the function? Create user, right? And that will be of name, the thing which we passed, which is name, and age will be of what we passed, age, and is married status will be something that we passed, is married. I hope I'm clear. Now we'll get what name. Let's we'll get the names. Age is married. Cool. Now this will be passed in the create user. Now since mutation hook does not gives us something but rather change the value, it changes the value in the backend. We don't have to use, like, we'll get the, instead of using curly, we are going to get the an array of value, um, a function basically which we have to call when we want to call. For example, the function will be create user which we want to call, and this function will be called, let's say, when we click on a button. For example, I defined a button here, button uh, get user, nay, add a new user, add a new user, and const handle add user, right? And we'll pass it on, sorry, on click we'll be having a handle add user. Now in this, what we are going to do is we'll call that function something like this, create user, and we are going to pass some values in an object called with the key of variables. What will be the values? We will be passing an object which contains, let's create a new user, or like hard coded new user here only, a new user as with name of something like Jacob. No, Jacob is already there. Let's take Thor, right? After that, age will be of 32 and is married. True. That's what we are going to pass here. New user. I think I'm clear. And when we click on this button, we'll create a new user and it will be passed to this. As soon as we call out, let's console log the um, new total values, or let's just refresh it because it is already stored in data. When we call it, we'll simply call the all users to check whether that user is present or not, and we'll call new total users. Let's see if it is working. So currently we have three users containing name of Rohan, Kumar and Pandey. If we call this button and then refresh it, we are having four values. What's that? The next new value will be Thor, ID, and this name. If we check in the backend code of localhost 4000 provided by the Apollo server, if we call out get users and call out, we'll be having the new value in the backend. So it is working completely. Now, if we want a new value to be shown and it should contain only name, we can do that also. Like, we just have to change it here. And if we call it now, let's see what we have is, oh no, sorry, that's not what we have to do actually. Since we are creating a new user, but when calling out all users, that part we have to change. So get users is what we have to change. Suppose previously it was showing only name, ID and name. Now we will call out age and is married, both. Now let's see. We have four users, and with each of them having name, is married, ID and age. All the values are there. This is a like hard coded value which we called out right here. We are creating a hard coded value. You can simply call out an input also, and pass on an object and add the value as event e.target.value and then call out. It will be completely dynamic and it will change multiple times according to your needs. So I hope I'm clear and I'm able to explain. I was able to explain the concepts which was in this. I hope you liked the video and found it informative. If you do, make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, follow for more. Thank you.